When I travel to America, there is only one lawyer I want, Mr. Carl Rominger.
I'm now live in the studio for Carl Rominger, the attorney at law, with Weekend Appointment. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you? Carl Rominger here. If you want to call in, go ahead and give us a buzz. The talk line numbers again are, what are they? 243
243-1200, 697-4297.
Oh, there we go.
Or 866-532-9466.
He gets paid to have a voice. I don't. Other people get paid to talk, but not paid for. Yeah, you get. Right.
Yeah, I get to go through the drive-thru and pick out two things on the dollar menu.
Yes! He gets paid to have a voice, right? Yeah. Somebody gets paid something to have a voice. We get paid to talk. We don't have voices. So I've got Fred Haight with me and AJ Politis to talk about workers' compensation law. So welcome, guys.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
We've had him on before, and so you guys may remember him. So if you have a workers' compensation question or a personal injury question, because I know you guys do the personal injury law as well. Between the three of us, we do a lot of personal injury law. I don't do any workers' compensation law. Most of the time, I send it to you guys, right?
And we appreciate that.
Yeah, well, but there's a reason for that, and you guys have credentials that a lot of workers' compensation lawyers don't. You want to tell me about that?
Yes, Carl. Both Fred and I are certified workers' compensation specialists in Pennsylvania workers' compensation law. It was a process that was initiated by the Pennsylvania Bar Association as approved by our Supreme Court just last year. Fred and I went through the very first application process and completed the certification exam. And we're fortunate to be two of the only 149 certified specialists in the entire state of Pennsylvania.
And generally, a lawyer can't say they're a specialist. We're prohibited in our advertising, so we have to be kind of witty about it. Instead of saying I'm a specialist in criminal defense, I say I do criminal defense. I just can't say I'm good at it.
Right.
But you guys are actually good at something, so you're allowed to say it because somebody else agrees besides your advertising agency.
That's correct.
Very good. And generally, actually, somebody recently posted on my Facebook that warehouses are very good for their business. Because I was fighting around with people talking about. Let me back up for a second. Here in Carlisle, where I live, in central Pennsylvania, they're building all these warehouses all the time, and people are complaining about them all the time because the farm that they live on, that used to be land that was developed, is now their sacrosanct house, and they don't want any development in the area or anything along those lines. So I get upset about that because you turn down all these jobs all the time. The way I look at it, okay. So I posted about that, and somebody else pointed out that I think was making a joke about workers' compensation because warehouse work is something where people often get injured because of the bucking the heavy weights and things.
Well, they do. It is a very physical job. And yes, over the years since Carlisle has developed as a warehouse center, we have had quite a number of clients who've come to us because they've been injured working in the warehouses. Now,
and my question on that, because that got me thinking about is I thought about, dropping a box on my foot. I used to work at Ross Distribution when I was in law school, and I'd unpack these boxes and put the labels on them and stick them back in the box. And there was a little bit of lifting involved in that. And you could drop something on your foot. I guess you get run over. I've had people get run over by forklifts before. I've had those third-party tortfeasor cases. But what about like a chronic injury? What if I just, my wrist hurts from cutting all those boxes all the time, or my knee is sore from just walking around on are those things that get into workers' compensation?
Well, they certainly are. In Pennsylvania workers' compensation, there is the concept of repetitive overuse syndromes, which is sort of a generic term for any type of sprain, strain, anything that develops in the extremities, upper and lower extremities, wrist, carpal tunnel syndrome, things that are caused and or, more importantly, aggravated by repetitive work activity.
So if I get hurt at work and I go to the boss and say, I dropped the box on my foot, and he says, okay, go take the workers' compensation information down or whatever. But if I have a boss that says to me, I don't care if your wrist is sore, you never got hurt here at work, that's really not true. That's something that needs to be diagnosed and then pursued.
Well, first and foremost, it is not uncommon for someone in a supervisory capacity to respond to a reported injury that, no, not here, you didn't. However, that's not allowed. That's not proper. you would report that as a work-related injury, and the employer has the obligation to report that to their workers' compensation insurance carrier.
Well, now what if I'm people like to fly fish around here? What if I'm a fly fisherman and my right wrist bothers me, and I fly fish quite a bit? So maybe it's the fly fishing, or maybe it was work. How does that work?
We'll let Fred answer that. He's the fly fisherman in our duo here.
Well, that can become a difficult issue of proof.
Okay.
However, even if a person comes to a job with a pre-existing condition, if nevertheless it can be shown that it was activity on the job that aggravated that condition to the point where it required medical care and or became disabling.
Okay.
It is still a work-related injury, although, as I mentioned, that can be a difficult medical issue to try to prove.
And, well, I know that anytime you have a prior existing condition in a third-party tortfeasor, regular car accident case is the easy way to say that, right? I say third-party tortfeasor, but for everybody out there, when you sue your employer or somebody else where you have that workers' comp, when we sue a third-party tortfeasor, so the classic example is you're going to work, the boss sends you to take a ream of paper from one facility to the other. While you're driving, somebody butt ends you with their car, hurts you. You got your workers' comp claim because I guess this is another one the supervisor probably says, just put it through your auto insurance. It's got nothing to do with work, which would be wrong, right?
That actually is criminal fraud on the part of the employer.
To tell you not to do that.
Exactly.
And so you go through workers' comp, but then you still have this third party, the person who hits you, that you can go after their auto insurance policy for.
That is correct. You can bring a lawsuit against the person who caused the accident, and you can collect damages there. However, in that situation, the employer's workers' compensation carrier is entitled to be reimbursed from that third-party recovery for everything that it has paid out.
Right.
Yeah, the important point in that example, Carl, is that workers' compensation in Pennsylvania, we lawyers use the term absolute liability. And what that means in layman's terms is that no matter how you're hurt, regardless of any contributory negligence by the employee. For example, in your car accident situation, if you're the employee and you're driving and the accident should happen to be as a result of your own negligence, yeah, you are still covered by Pennsylvania workers' compensation. If you were to pursue a lawsuit against the other party and you were negligent, you may not recover in that case, but you would have workers' compensation coverage.
Now, what if I took, remember I said to take the ream of paper, right, or a box of paper. Let's just say a box of paper.
Sure.
And I'm going to take it from, I don't know, tell the secretary, take this from the Harrisburg office to the Carlisle office. You guys have one of those, right? A Harrisburg office and a Carlisle office?
We certainly do.
Okay, so you send that poor lass off with the box of paper. But she decides, well, I'm not going to be into the Carlisle office. I'm going to be there tomorrow morning anyhow. So I'll just cut out of work a little early here on Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. and go straight home. And then I'll get there at 8 a.m. tomorrow. And AJ's never actually been in before 9 a.m. So I've never seen him in the office there. So I'll have the paper there before he even knows it. And, of course, in the morning on her way in, as she's commuting in, she gets struck. Is that a workers' comp issue?
That's a very good example. The simple answer is, given those facts, I would say yes. If, however, the young lass, the day before,
right,
in making a decision not to deliver the paper to the Carlisle office, but rather go home, and then was injured on the way home, it likely would be that she has deviated or moved away or taken herself out of the course and scope of employment. However, the next morning, as she re-enters the workforce as delivering that paper and she's injured, it's likely that that would be a covered workers' compensation injury.
Very interesting. So next question, let's permutate a little bit. So you guys remember, nowadays you can back up all your data online. But do you remember a few years ago, you would have this hard drive or this zip disk or something, and you tell some employee, right, you've got to take this home with you and hold on to this. If the office burns down, we'll have a backup. So every night you pop this disk out and take it with you and bring it back. So now I guess they're never commuting anymore, right? Because they're always doing a work task by taking it home with them. Would that be fair?
That's another very interesting scenario. Arguably, yes, they are on duty, even though normally just commuting to and from work does not put you in the course of your job. So, for example, when I leave home in the morning and drive to the office, if I'm injured on the way,
right,
that wouldn't be covered by workers' comp. However, in this scenario where the employee has been specifically instructed to carry the material back and forth, yes, that's what's called a special mission.
Okay.
And he or she would be in the course and scope of employment, even though just commuting to and from work.
I just was thinking of Mission Impossible when you said that, you know. So commuting's generally not counted. By the way, talk line number is 243-1200 697-4297 or an 800 number, 866-532-9466. 243-1200 if you want to get in the conversation. If you've been injured, know somebody's been injured, you just want to, test our brains here. I'm sort of trying to go through a few examples here because I'm going to try to make these more and more complicated. No, but I just like to tease it out a little bit because I think I see this, and you probably see it more than I do because you do the workers' comp, but I see a lot of people come in where they have been injured and they don't realize that they have a workers' comp component to their case simply because they just assumed it didn't happen at work, even though they were doing this special mission, let's say. Or, quite frankly, they were going from building A to building B and got sideswiped by somebody, and no one ever told them, or maybe somebody told them it wasn't workers' comp. But certainly nobody's encouraged them to look into that. And because of that absolute liability theory, a lot of times, as you know, there's always a factual question as to why your guy got in an accident or not. And they can at least get some relief that way. And there's one other thing that's different. Most people, I find, don't carry adequate disability insurances for personal purposes. So what you discover is they get in an auto accident, they can't work, and then they start whining and crying, calling their lawyers saying, when can you get me the money? And you're like, well, fella, you still got 2 casts on. And an old attorney told me one time it's malpractice, right, to settle a claim until your client's fully medically resolved. Which I think is true, right? I mean,
this old attorney told you that one time.
Yeah, I think so. Which I think is true, right? I mean, it's a pretty basic idea. But the person has no income source. If you can get them to a workers' comp situation, there's wage replacement component, which can kick in the short term, which is immediate, right? And that's a big difference versus going after a third-party tortfeasor when you don't have your own private disability insurance.
That's right, Carl. And you raise a few very good points. One of the main factors in Pennsylvania workers' compensation that most folks do not realize is that you do not have to be involved, and we've been talking a lot so far about and using the word accident. You do not have to be involved in a specific accident or a specific type of event in order to have a workers' compensation claim. In Pennsylvania, we're an injury state. We have not been an accident state since 1972. So there are various injuries that occur that are disease-oriented, that are repetitive use-oriented, etc. But leading up to what you had just mentioned about disability insurance is that most employers used to traditionally carry short-term disability and long-term disability benefits for their employees. After we've come through the recent recession, et cetera, cost-cutting, that seems to be occurring less and less, and folks aren't realizing that coverage no longer exists.
Right.
So in most cases, with an injury or an illness related to the work environment, workers' compensation is, in essence, your only resource for wage replacement.
And the other advantage of those disability style policies is there's no inquiry on those as to whether the injury occurred at work or at home or anywhere else.
Actually, that's not entirely true.
Some now do.
Most of them do inquire if it occurred at work, because the policies typically exclude coverage for work-related injuries.
So then they want to push you back into workers' comp.
Right.
So when your boss says just put it through the disability insurance, that's more bad boss advice?
Well, it is. And oftentimes what happens is that the employer will say, well, you'll get paid quicker if we do this by short-term disability. Now, fill out this application. And one or two boxes down in the list on the application will say, did this illness or injury occur at work or as a result of a work injury? And oftentimes the employee will be coached, if you will, into saying, well, you have to say that it was not a work injury in order for you to receive this short-term disability benefit.
Right.
So what does the unknowing injured employee do? They check this was not work-related. And then the employer feels that now they have an admission from the employee that, well, this was not work-related. But fortunately, we litigate those cases all the time, and the explanation for that is most times rather obvious.
Well, we're going to take a short break. 243-1200 to get here on the air again. 243-1200. Get your questions on the air. We'll see you back in a minute.
O's fans everywhere are only 2 months away from hearing their two favorite words, play ball. Single game tickets for the 2014 season go on sale Saturday, February 1st at 10 a.m. Grab your family and friends, clear your calendars, and make your plans now for the 60th anniversary season of Orioles baseball. Buy your tickets early for the key division rivalries, fun interleague showdowns, and special promotional dates you won't want to miss. Or upgrade your summer and enjoy a whole menu of exclusive orange carpet benefits by becoming a 13-game Orioles partial season plan holder. Plus, for the ultimate winter baseball fix, Orioles Fan Fest, presented by Visit Sarasota County, returns to the Baltimore Convention Center on Saturday, February 1st. Enjoy a day-long celebration with player appearances, interactive Q&A sessions, games, autographs, and more. For Fan Fest event and autograph session tickets, call 888-848-BIRD or visit Orioles.com.
IESI is your local, dependable, full-service trash hauling and recycling company, offering both home and business trash hauling and commercial roll-off services.
This is Kim Kesselring. If you need trash or recycling services anywhere in the Cumberland Valley, call me at IESI at 729-0601. That's 729-0601. We're a progressive waste solutions company.
Go to IESI.com for details on the service that fits you best. IESI, local hometown folks working for you. Call them today at 729-0601. IESI, 729-0601.
Love is in the air, everywhere I look around.
Love is in the air here at Country Gold FM. Listen for the sound of the kiss. When you hear it, be our 10th caller to win a fresh bouquet of flowers from the whimsical poppy of Mount Holly Springs. All flower winners will then qualify to win our Sweetheart prize package of dinner for two at the Rustic Tavern of Carlisle and a Valentine gift basket from your good neighbor pharmacies, Quality Care, Big Spring, and Holly Pharmacy. The whimsical poppy is at 417 North Baltimore Avenue, Mount Holly Springs. Show your love with a special Valentine surprise from the whimsical poppy. The Rustic Tavern at 823 Newville Road, Carlisle is the place to make your dinner reservations now for a romantic Valentine's Day dinner. And your good neighbor pharmacies, Quality Care, Holly Pharmacy, and Big Spring Pharmacy are your headquarters for Valentine gifts and cards and always personal service. Happy Valentine's Day from everyone at Country Gold FM.
Country Gold Radio, it is 8 to 29. It's the Carl Rominger Weekend Appointment Program. The numbers to call in, 243-1200, 697-4297, or 866-532-9466. Once again, here is Carl and his guests.
Well, here I am, yes, 243-1200. Get on the air here. We do have a caller. Who do we have? Caller, what's your name?
Candy.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
All right. Go ahead and throw it out there.
I work as a nurse's aide at one of the local nursing homes.
Okay.
And the other day, I was assisting a resident, and I got sort of a twinge in my back as she moved unexpectedly on me.
Okay.
And it bothered me, but I had the next 2 days off. They were my regular days off, and I thought things would just get better, over a couple of days. But when it was time to go back to work in 3 days, it still really bothered me.
Okay.
So I said to the charge nurse about it, and she said, well, we can't do anything now. You have to report something like that within 24 hours. Is this true?
Well, I can answer that very simply. No, that's not true. You do not have a limitation of 24 hours to report your injury. Under the law, you actually have 120 days to provide adequate notice to your employer about your injury. And then once you do provide notice, as in your particular case, your employer is obligated to have you sign an acknowledgement form of reporting that injury. And if they have a list of preferred panel providers for doctors and hospitals, etc., then you may choose from that list to treat with those individuals, healthcare providers, for 90 days. But if you're not provided with a list, as in your particular case, and you haven't been provided with an acknowledgement form, you are free to go ahead and treat with your own doctor, for example.
Yeah, but don't you think she would have made a complaint if she was really hurt sooner?
That's often used as a defense, and that's often used as a red flag by insurance carriers. But we find it in our practice that, these sprains, strains, particularly in the caller's profession, being a certified nursing assistant, and, they're typically dealing with patients who are, and the patients don't have to be large. It's really that they're incapacitated and they have dead weight. And in situations like that, when you're pulling a muscle or you're experiencing a sprain strain, it's really micro tears that occur and then take days, if not weeks, sometimes months, to develop into the full blown pain level.
I would like to have heard you give that explanation about 5 or 7 years ago.
Well, it's not unusual, and I'm sure you see this in car accident cases too, that immediately after an incident, the person may not realize that they're hurt at all. And then the next morning, they can't hardly get out of bed.
Well, I actually am aware of one where, and this is obviously sad because the guy died, but he got up out of his car and was over screaming at the other driver when he fell over dead from his internal injuries. But because of the car wreck and the adrenaline or whatever, got right up, walked right over and did that. You sometimes you see it along the side of the road when there's a little fender bender and somebody you can see the one guy yelling at the other guy through his window. This guy literally dropped over dead. And, of course, people were saying, well, how's that possible? Well, I think it's the adrenaline. I think it's that thing. But the other thing, if you ever had a car accident is the doc will tell you, right, wait till tomorrow. Because all those soft tissue injuries do take time to develop. The other interesting thing, I think the caller, you said the patient moved unexpectedly on you.
Yes.
Have you ever had an employer try to claim, the employee could have done something different to prevent the injury?
Well, that goes back to what I was commenting on earlier. It's a no-fault system, Pennsylvania workers' comp. The only time that a work injury, one of the times where it would not be compensable or payable, is if the action of the injured employee was intentional. If they intentionally hurt themselves, right, or they intentionally violated a very clear work rule. But in this particular circumstance of the patient unexpectedly moving or doing something, that's all within the course and scope of expected employment.
Well, let's talk about clear work rule. What if we had a home, nursing home that said, you shall not move a patient alone. You have always two people to move a patient. Would that then take them out from underneath workers' compensation if they tried to move a patient alone?
Well, the employers try to say that. But the fact is, and it's not at all difficult to find nursing home employees who will testify to this, there is no such thing as a no-lift nursing home.
Okay.
And again, it can be a situation where, and the caller wasn't clear as to whether she was lifting this person, We've had a lot of injuries where, for example, a nurse or a CNA is just simply helping a person walk down the hall, and the patient loses their footing or whatever and starts to fall, and the CNA tries to catch the person and is injured that way.
Okay. Right. So there's a lot of ways that could happen. And I bring that up because I know that the liability theory, but I know that this is what employers sometimes, and again, you hear these stories from the employees. Well, my boss said it's not workers' comp because it was my fault.
Right. And in its simplest terms, an employer could logically conclude that would be the situation, but very soon after reporting into their workers' comp insurance carrier, they should be informed to the contrary.
All right, caller, anything else you want to know?
No.
All right.
That's a good answer.
Well, good. Well, if you need to hire these guys, how do you get a hold of them?
Well, our main office is in Harrisburg. The phone numbers are 717-234-2401 or 800-822-9757. We also have a branch office in Carlisle where we're available by appointment.
And we're also available online, www.paworkerscomphelpnow.com.
And I would assume if you can hear this signal, you guys travel far and wide, I know, like I do for these kinds of things. So if you can hear them on the radio here, you're within their service area. Don't worry about whether you're too close or too far. If you can hear this, they're the guys that can help you. I got to go to break. No, I don't need a break in a minute. Yeah, I want to go to one more break here in a minute. But before I do that, and after I get back from the break, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl because I have some questions about that. But before that, I want to remind everybody to go to Harrisburg Beer and Cigar over in Union Deposit Road. They have a huge walk-in humidor, and today they've got the Drew Estate TV giveaway. So from 12 noon until 5 p.m. today, and I'm going to stop in over there and try to win this. You get, I forget what the entry fee is, but you can get 10 cigars and a raffle ticket and a hat. Get 15% off on a bunch of different stuff. Got the Liga Privada number 9s and T52s, 10% off. If you buy 2 boxes, you get an extra 10% off plus 10 raffle tickets for the TV. It's a pretty big TV. It's a 50-inch TV, so that's reasonably large. So that's, again, over at Harrisburg Beer and Cigar, and that's going to be from noon to 5 today. I'm going to stop in. I'll be over there at some point this afternoon, so stop in and tell them. If I'm not there, be sure and tell them I sent you, but if I'm there, stop in and say hello. I don't know if you guys will come over and puff a cigar or not, but it should be a reasonably good event, and it's a very nice little lounge, and it's just a huge walk-in humidor. So when I get back from a break, I'm going to ask these guys a couple questions about the Super Bowl.
Sure fresh, sure friendly, doing our best to give you more. We're your neighborhood Surefine stores.
Get ready for the big game at your Nell's Market Fresh Food stores. Stock up this week on fresh baby back ribs, sole whole, or 85% lean ground beef, each only $2.99 a pound. Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauces, buy one, get one free. 26 to 30 count easy peel shrimp, only $8.99 a pound, and they'll steam them for you free. Lay's chips, Redenbacher popcorn, Stroman, Mayer's, and Sara Lee breads, and Arnold's sandwich thins. They're all buy one, get one free. Call ahead 249-2345 and order your deli, bakery, fresh fruit, seafood, or veggie tray in advance. Be ready for the kickoff with a little help from your friends at your locally owned Nell's Farm Fresh Food stores with locations close by, including Walnut Bottom Road, Carlisle. And thank you for shopping Nell's.
Doing our best to give you more. We're your neighborhood Surefine stores.
It's the first of its kind. Magnolia's Jewelers International Jewelry Outlet is the Mid-State's most affordable source for distinct and unique gold jewelry, precious gems, and diamonds of all shapes and sizes. Stop by and meet Magnolia's Jewelers' friendly staff at 728 North Hanover Street and find the perfect gift. There's a beautiful selection of diamonds, 10 to 18 karat gold jewelry, platinum jewelry, both freshwater and cultured pearls, and lovely gold bracelets and chains in solid and link styles. Best of all, everything is priced 30% less than the rest. Magnolia's Jewelers even does repairs, sizing, and creates custom jewelry to meet your designs. And don't forget, Magnolia's pays top dollar for your unwanted gold. Now you don't have to travel to the big city to enjoy outlet prices on fine quality gold jewelry. Magnolia's Jewelers is open Monday through Friday from 10 until 5, and then Saturdays by appointment. Give a gift or treat yourself to exquisite jewelry from Magnolia's Jewelers on Route 11, the Harrisburg Pike, Carlisle, across from AutoZone and near the Army War College. knowledge. For all of your plumbing, heating, air conditioning repairs, and preventative maintenance, call Tyke Delp of Delp HVAC of Carlisle. Delp HVAC fixes leaks, installs new systems, and they don't charge an arm and a leg. Local to Carlisle for decades, Delp HVAC has the knowledge to keep your systems running soundly for years to come. Or for new systems, call the experienced guys at Delp HVAC, 713-6339. 713-6339 for professional installation.
PA 083722.
Delp HVAC of Carlisle.
You're listening to Carl Rominger and Weekend Appointment. The phone numbers to call in are 243-1200, 697-4297, or 866-532-9466. Once again, live, here's Carl Rominger.
Okay, we're back. I've got Fred Haight and H.A. Politis with, I say Palutis, I should say. How do you want me to say it?
Palutis.
Palutis. Like Balutis. What
word?
Yeah,
Balutis.
Whatever. I'm just thinking of. I'm thinking of Animal House. Gosh, what's that?
Blutarski.
Yeah, Blutarski. 0.0. Anyhow, Super Bowl's coming up here, and the Buffalo Bills are not in it, so I'm boycotting it, of course. And that means I haven't watched a Super Bowl in like decades. But right? Isn't it basically about how it's gone? We got a caller. Well, you tell that caller to hang on just a minute because I got an important question. Important question. The Super Bowl's coming up. Now, when somebody gets injured in the Super Bowl, right, do they get workers' compensation?
Well, professional athletes are covered by workers' compensation, just like anyone else. All of their medical expenses would be covered by workers' compensation. As long as they were unable to do their regular job, they would be entitled to compensation for total disability until such time as they would be able to work at something else.
Okay.
Now,
some of those guys can't work at anything else. I've heard them talk.
I play football. Yeah. Well, here is now, of course, we all know that most professional athletes, at least at the major league level, earn very hefty salaries.
We were just saying, I think, we were talking with somebody the other day, the NFL minimums used to be $500,000, but there's a little bit of cost of living adjustment on that because it wouldn't be fair not to raise it every year a little bit. So I think it's like $540 now.
Well, there is a maximum weekly amount of workers' compensation benefit. I think it's $800 and something.
That's correct.
This year.
Okay.
So they, regardless of how much they normally earn, now, of course, if their salary continues, they don't get workers' comp weekly benefits at all. But if they're not getting their salary, they would get the weekly maximum. So that's substantially less than what they would normally be getting.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Let's take this caller. What do we got? Caller, what do you want to talk about?
Hello?
Yeah,
Are you on the air?
You're on the air.
Hey, I'm wondering how I can get my fair hearing in the courts now. The Cumberland County Court wouldn't take my business evaluation. The judge wouldn't allow it because the opposing party, the defendant, didn't want the business evaluation entered. I then went to the Superior Court, and they said I had to be in. I thought I had 20 or 30 days, but they only have 10 days there. The judge who rendered her original opinion should have put that on their document. Don't you think that I only had 10 days to appeal it?
Well, if you're in a civil case in Pennsylvania, it's not 10 days to appeal it. It's 10 days to file the post-trial motion. And we have this practitioner's trap that lawyers sometimes get tripped up in, which is after a trial in most civil cases, not family law though, but in most civil cases, you have to file a 10-day post-trial motion. And if you don't, then you can't raise anything with the Superior Court, even though you have 30 days to appeal there. That sound right, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Yes, it is.
So it sounds
all right. So now I'm going to be going. The next step is to go to the Supreme Court.
Right, but the Supreme Court can't remedy.
What kind of trickery am I going to find there?
You're going to find that they're going to impose the same rule upon you that the Superior Court did. And unfortunately,
they said they had 20 or 30 days.
Well, I understand, but I mean, the reason you're bumped out of the Superior Court, it sounds like, is because you didn't file the post-trial motion. So, good luck, and we'll talk to you later. Do we have another caller coming in here? Oh, no. We did. Oh, we lost one. All right. Your phone's ringing off the hook over there.
Good luck getting the Supreme Court to take it.
Oh, caller, you're on the air.
Yes. I have a question. I just lost my husband a couple months ago, and I wanted to take his name off of my home deed and put my son on. Is that a good idea?
Well, let me ask. Let's back up a couple of steps. I assume when you say left him, you don't mean left him standing at the bus stop. You mean like divorced him.
No, I said I lost him.
Oh, you
He
lost
passed
him.
away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
So now you're on the deed and he's on the deed, but he's passed away, and you want to add your son.
Yes. Is it a good idea to add my son?
Well, that's an interesting question. How old are you, can I ask?
77.
Okay, and how's your health?
Very good.
Okay, so for all...
How is your son's health?
Good.
Yeah, that's an important question, too, because you don't want to create an issue there. Because unlike a marriage, where you guys own it as the entireties and your right of survivorship isn't going to trigger any inheritance, once you add somebody to it, there's going to trigger an inheritance tax either way, okay?
Okay.
Potentially. If you put him on the deed with a right of survivorship and more than 5 years go by, then you're going to survive these look-back provisions, which include Medicare and folks like that. Although, if they think there was any maneuvering at the time and you knew you had a problem, I think they can go back even farther. But there's another thing we talked about, which is these, and Fred, I think you were at the same program on filial support laws, which kind of can sidestep the whole thing, where even if you put your son on the property, he could still get tagged with the cost of your long-term care, independent of all the advanced strategies you might employ. So, a couple things come to mind. Number one, I would want to sit down with you off the air, obviously,
right,
and talk to you about, how much other assets do you have or don't have, and where are you at, because there might be other vehicles you would want to use besides simply just a deed change.
Okay.
Number two, there might be some more advanced planning. But here's the deal. I usually tell people to call Keystone Elder Law in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And if you look them up, Dave Nesbitt over there, who comes on the show periodically, and surprisingly hasn't called in yet to pipe in on this, but might at any moment now, is very good at that, and that's sort of what they do. So just like these guys are the workers' comp lawyers, I send people with the elder law questions there because they're current on everything at any given moment. And so it's probably, here's the nutshell, it's probably not a bad idea, but I wouldn't just do it without thinking everything through. And now's a good time to make sure and do like a little health check on everything to make sure I have everything in line that would be the most optimum for me.
Okay.
And here's something else that needs to be considered, too. And it goes to why I asked about your son's health.
His health is good. He travels for his job.
Okay. If something were to happen to your son, if you were to put him on the deed and he were to die, you would owe an inheritance tax.
Okay.
So that's something else. People don't. That's a trap that occasionally happens to people. Not often, but it can.
Well, I actually had one where the mother and daughter decided that they would open a joint account for the mother's benefit so the daughter could write all the bills out. But then for reasons unknown to me or probably anyone else in the world, daughter decided that she put $100,000 of her own money in that account so that she could write her own bills out of the same account. Well, then, of course, her mother died, and the position of the Department of Revenue is that half of the value of that account is subject to inheritance tax. And like if the account had $120,000 in it, $20,000 was mom's and $100,000 was daughter's, but they wanted to tax $60,000.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of same trap. That's basically the same idea you can fall into. So those are some thoughts. So if you want to, if you call my Carlisle office, we can put you in touch with Keystone Elder Law. But I don't know if you Google, just look up Keystone Elder Law in Camp Hill.
Okay.
And let Dave Nesbitt know we told you to call. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had talked to two other ones, and one lawyer called 3 times, never called me back. He had said he would help me. And then another one I called, and girl was going to call me back the next day and make an appointment to talk about it, and then I never heard from them. So I thought, well, I'm going to call here and see if I get any answers whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I think we gave you a pretty good answer, although we didn't give you a definitive answer.
Yeah.
And only because, and this is something that we talk about with this show all the time, which is people are out there listening and they go, oh, this sounds just like my legal problem. I'll do exactly what they're telling that guy to do.
Right.
And a lot of times there's little details that deviate and little facts, and this crops up in our practice all the time. I mean, that's how we make our living, figuring out what's different about this case than the last one.
Right.
So without knowing everything, I wouldn't be 100% certain how to counsel you, but I would tell you to call Keystone Elder Law, okay?
Okay. All right. We can do that. Thank you very much.
Keystone sponsors here at the radio show.
Okay.
Man, if you listen, when he goes through the break, I'll play that commercial.
We're going to play their commercial when we go to break so you can write their number down.
All right. Thank you.
Let's go to break.
Right.
Are you stressed from helping a parent with a health crisis? Did Medicare just stop paying the $300 daily cost of nursing care? Do you know what can be done legally to share family assets without incurring financial liability for nursing care costs? Keystone Elder Law's compassionate staff includes a registered nurse and others trained in care coordination. We know how you feel to be sandwiched between the demands of your job, children's activities, and aging parents. We'll help you manage issues caused by Alzheimer's, strokes, chronic diseases, or orthopedic injuries. We'll help you get the best care and figure out how you can pay for it without your parents going broke or you becoming financially liable. Allow us to reduce your stress and help your family save money. Call us at 697-3223 for a free telephone consultation. There's a reason our phone number spells My Peace. Call 697-3223 today and tell us Country Gold sent you.
On September 8, 2006, WEEO was granted a license by the Federal Communications Commission to serve the public interest as a public trustee until August 1, 2014. Our license will expire on August 1, 2014. We must file an application for renewal with the FCC on April 1, 2014. When filed, a copy of this application will be available for public inspection during our regular business hours. It contains information concerning this station's performance during the last 8 years. Individuals who wish to advise the FCC of facts relating to our renewal application and to whether this station has operated in the public interest should file comments and petitions with the FCC by July 1, 2014. Further information concerning the FCC's broadcast license renewal process is available at 728 North Hanover Street, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, or may be obtained from the FCC, Washington, D.C. 20554.
Country Gold news time is 8:52. We are listening to Carl Rominger live in the studio, 243-1200, 697-4297, 866-532-9466. Once again, here's Carl.
Well, I've got the workers' compensation experts here, Fred and AJ, and I'm telling you guys, I'm going over to Harrisburg Beer and Cigar this afternoon from 12 to 5. I'm not going to be there the whole time, but I'm going to go puff a cigar. And
what time are you going?
I'm thinking I might go right over at 1 o'clock. That's what I'm thinking, but I never know. I'm going to have lunch with my son today, so I don't know how long that's going to take. They're not very linear at 4, you know.
That's correct.
Any other thoughts you want to pass? I mean, we have a few more minutes here, so any other thoughts you want to pass on to people out there on workers' compensation, things that they might want to keep in the back of their head? Fred's thinking. Good radio, Fred.
We also have a great face for radio.
Well, yeah, we all have face for radio.
We all have face for radio. That's why we're here. We did talk about this the last time we were here, and it seems like the big fuss about Obamacare, at least to my observation, appears to be settling down with the website problems and difficulties they were having, et cetera. But I have had the occasion where people are under the misunderstanding that Obamacare takes over and covers everything, including workers' compensation.
Including all those pills that the people in the middle of the state are taking, according to the governor, which are causing them to become hillbillies.
That's correct. Well, so Obamacare pays for all that. But it does not pay for workers' compensation. The workers' compensation system is still a separate insurance program for employees who are injured on the job.
And I would imagine a lot of those health plans somewhere in the nitty-gritty are going to have something in them that says, we don't pay for what you could have gotten from workers' comp.
They all do already.
Yeah. And so even the Obamacare plans are going to be written on the theory that they're not picking up the slack here.
Almost I don't think I have ever seen a medical insurance plan that did not exclude work-related injuries. And also, Medicare excludes work-related injuries. And first-party medical coverage under auto insurance excludes work-related injuries. So workers' compensation is literally the only source for payment of medical treatment for an injury on the job.
And oftentimes employees will face this difficult situation where they have filed a claim for workers' compensation when their claim has been denied. And their health insurance will pick up on the fact that a work-related injury was simply reported, and they will deny coverage. And that's when it's best to seek counsel, because the health insurance carrier then needs to be contacted and re-educated that once workers' compensation is not in play, that they are the primary source of coverage until such time as workers' comp may then become the coverage for the injured employee.
And at that point, the health insurance carrier is entitled to be reimbursed by the workers' comp carrier for anything that they have paid out.
Interesting. All right. So again, just so people got your phone number again, where do they find you? How do they get you?
717-234-2401 or 800-822-9757. I'll let AJ give you the website because I can't remember that.
And our website is paworkerscomphelpnow.com.
Okay. And I'll make sure we throw a link up with Shane. Now, of course, this show is going to be podcast, so a little later this morning it'll go up on Spreaker. We've got about 300 hours of past shows on there in case you guys have nothing to do later today and you want to listen to those.
Excellent. We could do that over at the Cigar and Beer Warehouse. We can,
they'll
we can
love
run
that.
podcasts and smoke cigars, yes.
You know, actually, I do get occasionally an email from somebody and they'll say, in November of 2010, you said, but did you know, or what did you mean by, and I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody has actually listened to the November 2010, I don't know which weekend, but obviously when I was hunting, but listened to the show and is now asking me a critical question about it, and I'm supposed to know what I said in November of 2010 on the radio.
Don't ever run for political office, Carl.
Oh, no, I got too many other. In fact, after the Trindle last night, I probably... That's a hopping place on Friday nights now. It is turned into the kind of the dynamo out there. So if anybody's listening,
the disc jockey's really good.
The disc jockey's really good. Is that what they say?
That's what they tell me. Yes.
Yeah, you sling them like a young guy. I mean, I don't understand. Even you seem to know what all the hip hop stuff is. How do you do that? How do you know all this stuff?
Because all these 25-year-old women keep beating me up to play this.
So you're getting educated.
Oh yes.
Well, 243-1200 if you want to jump on the air here really quick. I guess the point of everybody should take from this show today is you probably shouldn't make your own determination as to whether or not workers' comp applies, and you definitely shouldn't take your boss's determination about whether or not workers' comp applies. If you've been hurt and you remotely think it could be related to work, or you have an injury that could be related to work, or even a chronic condition, I guess it probably wouldn't hurt to call the lawyer up and say, I think I might have this, or I might have this, or do I have this, and run it by him, because what are you going to charge somebody to do that?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. That's the best time to call, is when you're initiating the process and you're not sure what to do. You'll never get a bill from us, and unless, of course, we obtain benefits for the injured worker.
And I always find it interesting because people will say, oh, I don't need a lawyer. I'm going to handle this with the insurance adjuster on my own. And they make all the, I don't say mistakes, but we don't, for instance, just automatically start handing over documents to the insurance adjuster. We don't just willy-nilly give statements to the insurance adjuster because you want to make sure you shape your case as best you can and understand what's really going on. And as you said earlier about somebody saying, "Well, check this box because this will be in your best interest." There's a lot of stories where somebody's tells us, whether it's true or not, but they tell us, oh, they told me it's better to present it that way, or they told me I should say it that way, or I should check that box, or I should agree. And any of those things can become a problem later on. And I don't understand why this is, but people for some reason think that the guy on the other side, the insurance company, is their friend.
Well, they're trained to do that. The insurance carriers whether it be workers' compensation or any other type of insurance carrier, they're really not in the business of paying claims. They're in the business of collecting their premiums, so they're well versed in luring people into a false sense of security and taking advantage of their lack of education on the subject,
which is their job. And so I just remind people, don't just go talk to the other side. Talk to the lawyer first. I appreciate you guys coming in here. I know it's early, so
thanks for having us, Carl.
And we'll have.